Hey everybody. Welcome to another episode of Today I Learned in R. I'm here with Greg Martin. We're going to learn some stuff today. Greg, what are you going to tell us about?
I'm going to be talking about, when you're coding and you open brackets and then you write some code, then there's another open bracket, code, 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 open, open, close,
Hmm.
close, close. And eventually the brackets are all just confusing. You don't know where you're at. There's a nice little fix to all of that. There's a nice workaround. You're going to love it. I discovered this just the other day and I was like, woohoo, boom, shakalaka. What are you going to teach me?
I'm going to get a little bit underneath the hood of the LM command, the linear modeling command. Don't worry, there will be no math tests. It will be gentle, but I think useful. You want to go ahead and show us your thing, Greg?
Yeah, let's do it. Boom, shakalaka. Share screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so don't worry about the actual code.
Okay.
But just notice all the brackets. There's open bracket. Then there's a close.
Hmm.
Then there's an open. There's another open there. Close, close, close. This is what used to and still drives me kind of bonkers. If you kind of click on one of these things, you can see where its counterpart is. So
Yeah.
this one over here is closed over there. And if you click on this one here, it closes over
Hmm.
there. But there's an even nicer fix. If you go into Tools,
Hmm.
Global Options, go into Code, Display, use rainbow parenthesis
Oh, nice. I haven't played with that.
and say, okay. Now you can see it's color coded. So
Hmm.
this peach is the open over here, and its counterpart is peach down there. This orange, its counterpart is orange. And it's much easier to look at your code and
Great.
know what is happening in terms of the opening and closing of brackets. Because we've all had it where there's a little bit of an error and you're missing a bracket that
Hmm.
isn't closed or or you've got one extra. I mean, that happens to everybody. So this is a nice way to keep track of what's going on in that sense. Okay, so I'm gonna hit stop share.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Greg. I like the way that your screen there looks. I am a notorious light mode user. People make fun of me for it, and I don't care. I appreciate the attractive screen that you have there.
Super duper. Okay, so let's jump into the LM function. Show me.
Yeah, okay. So here we are, and as usual, I'm just loading up tidyverse, and I'm gonna work with the classical iris data set for a little bit. And so we've got these four quantitative variables and one categorical. I'm guessing most people have seen this before. And
Mhm,
this next bit is just giving us a ggplot modeling sepal length by sepal width and the
mhm,
species.
mhm,
And so you can see there's generally linear trends between sepal width and sepal length within each of those categories.
mhm,
And we can use the LM command, short for linear model, to actually get the equations of these lines. So I'll use that, and you can see the syntax here. Model sepal length with sepal width and species using the data
mhm,
set iris.
mhm,
And then we get all these regression coefficients out. So the intercept and then the coefficients of these. Okay.
mhm,
So what that's saying, of course, is that we're predicting the length of a sepal with some intercept term, call it B0, and then a slope term, B1 times width, and then potentially some additional like vertical shift if you have a versicolor, and some different vertical shift if you have a virginica. So this part up here is just referring to the setosas.
mhm.
And that's a little bit opaque, honestly. It's great that we can get these coefficients right out, but if you look at the data set, where'd my glimpse command go? Right here, the variable is called species, and down here, where the model output, there's species versicolor and species virginica. And so it's not immediately obvious how those things connect. You kind of need to have a little bit of math in mind. And, some of you probably were getting frustrated even as I was just pointing out at this. So one nice thing that I learned this fairly recently is the model matrix command, which is actually being
Uh-huh.
used underneath the hood by LM. And if you actually look at the source code for LM, you'll see it. So I'm just going to execute that. And this is returning, well, a matrix, and we can view it like a data frame. And so from this model, we had intercept width, versicolor, and virginica. The model matrix is literally breaking down that iris data set, excuse me, into those four variables. And so species versicolor and species virginica are indicator variables, There's zero when the flower is a setosa, as in these first 50 rows of the data set. And then when we get into the versicolors, species versicolor is 1, species virginica is 0. And when we get even further down, when we get into the virginicas, you can see versicolor is 0, virginica is 1.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so when R is actually fitting the model, it's literally just taking the B0 coefficient times this, the B1 coefficient times this, B2 times this, and B3 times this, coming up with the best values for like a, least squares or whatever it's doing underneath the hood and fitting that model. So it's a nice little way to kind of dive into a little bit of that modeling that's happening there and to understand it just a little bit better.
How did you discover this model matrix function?
I
'Cause it's not obvious.
It's not obvious. And okay, so I'm a nerd. I'm a math, not just a nerd, but like we're both nerds, but like, and probably everybody watching is, but I'm a math nerd. So I was reading a part of the Introduction to Statistical Learning with Applications in R, which is
Bedtime
one.
reading, standard bedtime reading.
It is, but I mean, you're joking, but it is a really tremendous book where it's not shying away from like putting equations, but it's not like solving for X. It's not expecting you to follow
Mhm.
along line by
Mhm.
line on that. And then it's got labs. So for each chapter, it's got R code that shows you how to do like lasso regression or neural networks or whatever it might be. And and I forget what chapter I was reading, but it was using that function. I'd never seen it before. And
Nice.
it's kind of it made the whole linear model process just a little more clear to me because simple linear regression is not simple. I mean, it's such
Yeah,
a deep well.
and it can be confusing, especially if you don't do it often. So,
Yeah,
I find whenever I do any either linear regression or logistic regression, I'm usually coming at it having not looked at it for ages, and I got to spend a huge chunk of time just getting my head back into that space.
I
Um,
have that with when I'm working with any kind of strings
mhm.
or like
Yeah,
date times, like certain data formats that I just don't use very often. I have to like
yeah,
I know there's a function that does this. I just don't
yeah, yeah,
remember.
yeah. I have that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, talking about books, Andrew, we
Yeah.
are writing a book, you and I.
Yeah.
And
It's
I think
it's
people watching this might be interested. Would you want to just talk about the book for a few seconds?
it's exciting to think about kind of being part of that bedtime reading for the nerds out there, right? So, what we're working on, the working title is Practical Data Analysis with R, but I think we're viewing it really as sort of a 0 to 60 crash course. Start
Mm.
from
Yeah.
just having opened up R and maybe tinkered and not gotten very far, to really being ready to do some models. We aren't teaching any modeling in here, but we're going to teach you to wrangle. We're going to teach you to visualize. We're going to teach some of the basic programming tools about iteration, and
Mhm.
then get into Quarto and data science communication. We're also
Yeah.
going to have
Yeah.
a bunch of case studies for you, the reader, to work through. I know you've
Well,
been sort of focused on that a little, Greg.
what
what's
I like, yeah, I think what I like about the sort of, the chapter text and then the case studies is that you could read the book at more than one level. So if you're an absolute beginner to R, you've never,
Yeah.
you're starting from scratch, you can start on page one and you'll get like a nice, gentle
Yes.
introduction to R. If you already use R, but you're just wanting to kind of dip in and out to solve
Mhm.
problems, the book's going to be kind of made in a way that's user-friendly in
Yeah.
that sense. And then the exercises, well, we're not going to use the word exercises. We've agreed we don't like that word, but the sort of case studies or the sort of, they really are at the next level. So if you're already a bit of an R aficionado,
Yeah.
but you want to take things to the next level and dig a bit deeper, those case studies are lovely. And all of them use data that you have access to, right? So we
Absolutely.
use all the built-in data so you
Yes.
can replicate everything that's in the book on your computer,
Yeah.
replicate, improve upon, blah, blah, blah.
You
So yeah,
know,
the book's exciting. I'm very happy.
one thing about reading books, or whether it's books or blogs or videos, is that, a lot of times data science is something that we kind of end up doing on our own, like as learners, where I think a lot of my viewers are like kind of hoping to break into data science or are kind of moving in that direction from a professional or from a career where they're
Mhm.
working with data but aren't like trained on that. And so when I read and when I watch videos and stuff, I'm seeing all these best practices for things that I've kind of been faking my way through.
Mm.
And then
Mhm,
I
mhm,
learn how to do them sort of more right.
mhm,
And so I'm really hoping that for some of the readers you're describing that maybe have a
mhm,
little bit of experience, maybe know what they're doing kind of,
mhm.
they're still going to be able to see, here's sort of the best practice, here's how to look more
Mm,
professional,
yeah,
here's how to do this more efficiently and more pleasantly.
yeah. And in writing the book with you, Andrew, I've certainly been learning a lot
Same
from you.
here.
So thanks for that. And on that note, people that are watching this video on my YouTube channel, go and check out Equitable Equations. It's Andrew's channel. And interestingly, you saw the example that he used today about linear models. I find Andrew's teaching around statistics and how you use R to kind of really get into under the hood with respect to statistics amazing. It's like a fantastic channel for that. So go and I don't have a lot of that stuff on my channel, so absolutely make that your go-to place
Well,
for that sort of content.
thank you so much for that, Greg. I really I think I used the phrase earlier, but I really don't want to spend a lot of time solving for X, but I really do think there's a lot of value to be gained in understanding the processes a little bit. And especially in sort of a competitive market and where you're competing with ChatGPT now, having that kind of understanding is one way to set yourself apart.
Definitely.
We definitely need to make sure we get everybody subscribing to our Programming 101 out there. This is one of the very best go-to channels when you're learning R. So
Thank you.
I strongly commend that to everybody.
Okay, well, good to see you as always, Andrew. We'll do this again soon.
Absolutely, Greg. Thanks so much. I always learn a ton.
Okay, take care. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.